known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Buying your electricity from the big energy companies is now the most expensive way to power your home. In fact, the average electricity bill in Australia has more than doubled in the last 15 years, but not for the ones who went solar. Unlike your electricity bill, the price of solar has actually come down, and there's also government rebates available. So what are you waiting for? Join the 2 million households already saving hundreds of dollars every year. See how much your roof could be making you at solarpowerco.com.au. Go solar and get $500 cash back with the Solar Power Co, Australia's most trusted solar brand. solarpowerco.com.au.
Well, it's the biggest Socceroos game in 2 long years, and we rub our hands with glee and wait patiently for the very specific 9:14 kickoff time Eastern Daylight as the Socceroos take on Japan in Japan. A win for the Socceroos could not just send them comfortably clear in the automatic qualification places, but could see Moriyasu, the Japanese coach, out of a job. It's a twofer, Nick Tabano.
G'day, Josh. It's a big day. I mean, we haven't played Japan in so long, and it feels like it's probably the biggest game against Japan in quite some time. I mean, there's so much riding on this game, not just for the Socceroos, but as you mentioned, for Japan. I mean, Moriyasu's now been there, I think, for 4 years. He was there in 2018 at the World Cup. They've had a disastrous start to qualifying. I'm very curious to hear what Dan Orlowitz is going to have to say about it when he joins us in a few minutes' time. But, geez, I tell you what, Australia's somehow come away with a win tonight. I probably shouldn't say somehow, because I'm almost tuned to think that somehow Australia is going to escape with 3 points in Japan. But they do that, and I get a feeling that it could be it for Moriyasu. It seems like the writing's on the wall, and it's a shame because Arnie and him are mates. Like driving the dagger in the back of your mate. But obviously, you know, that's how football works sometimes.
Well, yeah, they played together back in the day at Sanfrecce Hiroshima, so that's a real throwback. But Graham Arnold and a few other Aussies actually did play in the J League in the 90s when it was really taking off, and they had, you know, Arsene Wenger coaching, and you know, I think Zico was playing there. Oh, that might have been the 80s. But anyway, back in the day, Moriyasu and Arnie, former teammates, coming up against each other with a lot on the line. And honestly, this is a much more important game for Japan than it is for Australia. I mean, even anything less than a win could cost Moriyasu his job, or so we're reading in the Japanese press. Yeah, well, at the moment, it's 6 points at the gap between at least Saudi Arabia and Japan. Our gap obviously is the same, but with goal difference permitting. And I'll tell you what, as you did say, if it is a draw, you know, and Saudi Arabia do win, it doesn't really change much. And especially if there are results that sort of go in terms of, I think, China and Vietnam, or am I getting it confused? They're playing each other today as well. I believe Saudi Arabia is playing China and Oman is playing Vietnam.
Okay, so, you know, it could get worse for them because they could fall out of that third place, which at least gives them a chance to go into the playoffs and play those 2 extra qualifiers against, you know, third place in the other group, and then have to go and play the CONCACAF side, and it gets all convoluted and everything else. But they've got to win. Japan are a proud team. That's one thing we've got to remember, Josh. This is a very, very proud footballing nation. They expect to qualify automatically for every single World Cup that, you know, that they have a chance to do. And since Moriyasu's come in, you know, ever since they made the round of 16 at the World Cup, it seems like there's been a bit of falling behind the expectations. You know, they lost the Asian Cup final to Qatar, and now they're starting to see themselves regress in terms of qualification for this. And it's a very dangerous position they find themselves in right now. Even if they win, they're still playing catch up. Like that 6 points, they've got to really try and get it going in these next 7 games.
it's going to be an odd atmosphere in Japan tonight. The fans will not be allowed to chant in the stands because it is a COVID spreading risk. So it'll be percussive elements only. It won't be the continuous choreographed sort of endurance style support that we're used to hearing. But, maybe given the unpopularity of the head coach, they might not have had it anyway. They might have been hearing boos if they're allowed to boo.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost the perfect storm for Moriyasu. You get fans, but they just can't say beep. Like, I think that they've got some sort of like AI technology that if a fan, I think, chants or something like that, I think that they get alerted or something. It's real sort of dystopian future kind of stuff there. But I reckon it's going to be really cool to see how it all works in terms of seeing, I think it's about 10,000 people inside a 60,000 seat stadium, just completely silent for 90 minutes. It'll be like being at the theatre, and it genuinely will, because, all
polite
they can
applause.
Do is clapping. Go to the theatre. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to this game. I really haven't felt the stakes on the line in a Socceroos match since the Asian Cup. We've played a succession of minnows, beaten all of them, beaten up on so many small teams with towering Harry Sutar headers and a couple of scrappy ones along the way. But now's the first serious test of Graham Arnold's leadership since that knockout game against the UAE.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, Josh. I mean, 11 games unbeaten is all well and good, but 11 games at face value is only a number without context. If you don't look at the actual context who they're beating, no disrespect to, Oman, who actually put up a pretty decent fight and, some of the sides they've played, but they're not at the same level as Japan, right? Japan are arguably the best team in Asia when they've got it going. So this is the first real test for them, and Saudi Arabia after this in the next qualification as well. So these next two games are really going to say a lot about how good this team is and how good of a coach Graham Arnold is, because this is also the first time, Josh, that they're really going to have to play on the back foot because they're used to having so much of the ball. I'd be curious to see how things are tinkered in terms of coming up against a team who actually want to have possession, actually want to be on the front foot.
It might make Australia look slicker, actually. I'm looking
it
forward
probably
to
will,
seeing
yeah.
it. Because we've seen a lot of dead possession in this side, a lot of recycling and players not presenting options and it being a bit disjointed until moments of transition where Australia wins the ball high and then it's almost always a goal. So I wonder how high the Socceroos are going to press. The approach will be fascinating and highly instructive, I think. Coming up tonight on FNR, we do have a watch-along, which is always good fun. Live watch-along, your second screen experience during the game, your alternative commentary, discussion, live analysis, and general silliness and nonsense that usually goes on during those long live streams. So make sure you join us for that from 9 o'clock. We've got some familiar special guests with Nick Stoll, Ante Jukic, and Joey Lynch joining us for the duration of the match, as well as the usual FNR crew. So that's going to be lots and lots of fun. And we just hope that Ante can keep the Croatian swearing to a minimum. That's just fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
But I don't think, look, being 110% honest here, Josh, when the clock strikes maybe 10 o'clock, when we reach that certain time of the night, maybe it might change. Maybe we will get a few Croatian swear words in there. But let's hope it keeps.
When the lights go down, when the moon comes out, and when the Batman signal hits the sky with the bucket hat, that's when all bets are off. So join us for the watch along tonight from 9 p.m. We're going to take a very, very quick break. And on the other side, we've got Dan Orlowitz joining us from the Japan Times. So stick around for that here on Twilight.
Looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Welcome back. Twilight Football here on FNR Football Nation Radio. We are delighted to be joined now by Dan Orlowitz from the Japan Times, a frequent guest of ours whenever Japanese football becomes relevant on our radar, and how relevant it is tonight with the Socceroos facing off against a manager and a team under considerable scrutiny and pressure for their recent performances. Dan, welcome back to FNR.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for making time on game day especially. Just what is at stake for the Samurai Blue tonight?
There's a lot at stake. As you sort of mentioned or implied, I think head coach Hajime Moriyasu is playing with his job on the line. Anything less than a win and he is in all likelihood out. Anything less than a win and this Japan squad is not necessarily completely out of the running for an automatic spot in the next year's World Cup, but pretty close to it, which would mean having to fight through the playoff and then the intercontinental playoff, and that's just not the situation you want to be in. So we really are at risk of being in a state where we could lose, our World Cup streak, which started in 1998, could end or be put under threat tonight.
Dan, what are you seeing that's sort of so wrong with Japan right now in terms of their performances? The loss against Saudi Arabia and the struggles even in the last window. What are you seeing in terms of what's going wrong?
I think that it's important to note that the players are there. If you look at this Japan squad, and if you look at the pool that's available, you could argue that this is the strongest pool of players Japan has ever had. The problem is in the coaching, in the tactics, in the selection. Moriyasu is just playing things far more conservatively and giving minutes to players who are not fit, who are not really getting it done in Europe, who... you look at Gaku Shibasaki starting, you look at Yuto Nagatomo still at left back. Granted, now he has a club, but he isn't the Yuto Nagatomo that we remember from the Asian Cup 10 years ago, from the 2010 World Cup. You look at Kyogo Furuhashi starting on the bench, only getting 30 minutes when he's just doing so many good things at Celtic. That's not a player that you want to be a super sub. That's a player that you want from the kickoff. So I just, there's a lot of doubt that Moriyasu really understands what to do with these tools that he has been given. And in the absence of that understanding, he's just sort of reverting back to the players he knows and just sort of hitting his head against the wall again and again, hoping that the wall will break.
I mean, that's astonishing to anyone who's watched a Celtic game this season since Furuhashi's arrival. I mean, a lot of Aussie fans have been watching Celtic for obvious reasons, and Kyogo's been maybe their best player. So to see him on the bench is absolutely astonishing.
It is. And if you don't see him starting this evening, I really don't know what to say. I think that everyone would like to see him start. I mean, he might start on the bench. I mean, I think that you'll have a couple changes tonight. You'll see Junya Ito, who was suspended for the Saudi Arabia game. So there's a good chance that he could get in the starting lineup. But you look at players like Daichi Kamada, who didn't really get it done at the Olympics. You look at, you'd like to see Al Tanaka get a start. You'd like to see some of these younger players who show a lot of promise, getting in there earlier instead of being relegated to bench roles. But instead, you're seeing sort of the known quantities. Your back line, Yoshida, Nagatomo, Sakai, Tomiyasu is sort of the outlier as a younger player. But these are all players who have been in 2 or 3 World Cups. So we're at this weird state where Moriyasu was supposed to oversee a transition between the 2018 World Cup squad, which punched way above its belt, or I should say way above its weight class, and transition that into the next generation. And we're still not there yet. And it's frustrating. It's vexing. It's lots of adjectives that are probably not appropriate for the radio. But it's, we lose tonight and it's not good. It's really not looking good at all.
Dan, I was just reading some comments from Moriyasu after the Saudi Arabia game. He spoke about being tired and losing their rhythm. Is that something you're noticing as well? Frustration in terms of not being able to create, just in terms of actually being able to create chances and breakthrough sides. Is that something that you're noticing too?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the fitness issue, I think that one of the biggest issues that we've had throughout this qualifier cycle, and I guess the qualifier cycle has basically just been last year and this year, is the effect of the pandemic. You have the travel issues, you have the bubble, you have the quarantine, and that is something you can say that the players are used to it, which to an extent they are, but it still gets to you. You've got key players who have been going nonstop for their clubs, for the national team, for the Olympic team all summer. Wataru Endo, is another one. Yoshida, Sakai. I mean, these are the players who have been just at it. And when the team is sort of in this frustrating state, you do need a leader from among the squad, hopefully more than one, but you need someone to step up and bring everyone together and just get everyone on the same page. And we've had some reports in our local media that Nagatomo has stepped up in practice, Yoshida has stepped up in practice, and they're sort of working on just trying to rally the troops. So, what we see tonight at kickoff, at that 7:14 kickoff that everyone's getting very excited about. And if you're going to ask me why 7:14, the answer is I don't know, but here it's advertised as 7:10. So I guess that's when the teams walk out. And there's no significance to that number, really. So let's get that out of the way. They just need a win, and I think that, as some of my colleagues have said, Moriyasu often seems like he's playing not to lose. And with players at this level, I think that you can afford to be braver, to be more ambitious. I've talked to lots of people, journalists, J-League coaches, everyone sort of wonders, well, why are they struggling? Because they shouldn't be. On paper, this is an amazing team, but just nothing's clicking. And you could argue that maybe it would take a big win against our biggest rival at the moment to do that, to get everything to click. Or if we don't get that, then maybe this is the moment everything falls apart and we go sort of into the rebuilding mode that we saw after 1994. And that's horrifying. As a journalist, as a fan, there's no small number of people who would argue at this point that maybe the best thing to happen would be to burn it down and start from scratch, going all the way up to the top leadership of the Japan Football Association. But do we really want to get to that point? Probably not.
I mean, it's scary in a World Cup qualification cycle to be having these kind of existential questions facing you. And firstly, thank you for dispelling myths around the number 15 that we may or may not have peddled this time on the show last week. But Yeah, I mean, when there's so much on the line in terms of World Cup qualification, how would it impact Japanese football to miss out on a World Cup cycle? Because in Australia, we worry that all of the progress since 2006 and our first qualification in 30 years or so would be completely undone by missing one of these things. Is that kind of interest in the game waning a serious possibility in Japan? Because it's not a one, sport country like some others in the region. Baseball is very popular as well. Or is it simply a loss of opportunity for the fans to watch and celebrate a tournament and commercial revenue and so forth?
I mean, it isn't a one sport country; it's a two sport country.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's baseball and there's football and there's soccer. Australia, you've got soccer, rugby league, rugby union, AFL, cricket, women's soccer, which is sort of almost in a category of its own, and I mean that in a good way. I think that if you want some perspective on what it would mean for Japan, I think you only have to look back to 3 years ago when the United States missed out on the World Cup, where you had a really talented pool of players, lots of talent in that U.S. squad, but just a couple bad results and sort of unambitious coaching and some really bad luck away denied them a huge opportunity. It did set the program back, and they, as a player pool, they're getting stronger and stronger. But then you see them missing out on the Olympics year after year. And soccer is alive and well in the U.S. It's doing great. It's legitimately established itself as sort of a fifth, as part of the Big Five, where joining the Big Four of baseball, hockey, basketball, and American football. But right now in Japan, the J League was riding high before the pandemic. Record attendance in 2019, just great crowds, great energy, and we lost all of that. All of it. Even though we've had fans in the stadiums since July 2020, we're still limited we've been limited for most of the year to about 5,000 people per game. And when you're talking about stadiums that fit 60, 70,000, that's not much. So clubs are hurting, sponsors are hurting. The fans are there is a fear that if sports don't come back, if the atmosphere doesn't come back, then maybe fans won't have as much of a reason to come back. So you have that issue, which is totally different from sort of the national team. And then bringing it back to the national team, you have this issue of, well, all of the top players are in Europe. So it's harder and harder to see them in person. And younger fans, you can't go to a J League game and see players who represent the national team or represent Japan as you could 10 years ago. So when that hook is gone, what next? Well, if you have a strong national team, then that should be able to draw fans in enough by itself. But if you don't have a strong national team, what next? So it's a very roundabout way of answering your question, but it is this sort of cascade of issues, and they all risk collapsing at once. Like if you look at football culture in Japan, we have such a rich history. Next year is going to be the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the J League. We've come a long way, and you'd like to think that all of that wouldn't be undone by missing one World Cup, but at the same time, it is a big deal here. And if we lose that, then it's just really difficult to think about what the knock-on impact could be. Even just in terms of fans being able to watch it, because you have to think about, well, will broadcasters go all in on what are some very expensive broadcasting rights if Japan aren't involved? And that's an open question, especially in these times. So, is the fate of everything at stake tonight? Maybe not, but it's not really difficult to write a scenario in which maybe it is.
Dan, just one about the fans. You did mention capped crowds, and we've heard about, the silence of, not being able to cheer and everything else. Have you got a bit of an update on sort of how the progress is going in terms of getting more people back, getting the atmosphere back? Is there any plans or roadmap with vaccination rates going up, etc.?
Yes. So at the end of the month, Japan ended its state of emergency. We are now in a 1-month transitional phase where the cap is essentially 10,000. And on a trial basis, at some games, including tonight, they're going to start allowing in people over that cap if they are vaccinated or have a negative PCR test, I think within 72 hours of the game. So the JFA has sold 5,000 tickets for the VT seats, what they're calling the vaccine test seats. So tonight's max crowd will be 15,000. For the Levain Cup final, the League Cup, at the same stadium on October 30th, it's going to be 10,000 regular tickets, 10,000 VT seats. The goal, and this is happening in soccer, this is happening in baseball as well. It is phased, and they are just trying to establish what works and what doesn't. But the goal is, at least on the J League side, to get stadiums up to maybe 60, 70% capacity by the end of the season. And if they can get to that number, they'll be happy. And then we can look to 100% for the 2022 season. As far as cheering, atmospheres, flag waving, all that, the league is officially, and I've asked this a few times before, they're not discussing anything yet. So the official rule as of right now, and probably through the end of the season, is no cheering, no chants, no songs, no flag waving. They're allowed to clap. They're allowed to have drummers, no trumpets, no vuvuzelas, nothing. And that's about it. So you're going to hear a lot of clapping tonight. And that's really all you'll hear. And that's just what it's been. And that's been our new normal for about 15 months now.
So it's just the opening to "We Will Rock You" over and over again, I'm assuming. Just stomp, stomp, clap the whole game.
Basic, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll come up with 2, maybe 3 rhythms. It's the same as any Japan game where it's only the 2 or 3 chants. They only have so many things. But with 15,000, they'll do their best. And it's Saitama. It's a big game. The fans don't want to see the team lose. And we'll see how it looks. I mean, after I hang up with you guys, I'm gonna head down to the stadium, and I have no idea what it's gonna be like, but hopefully it's something positive, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything is better for us than watching the Socceroos play another game behind closed doors at 2 or 3 in the morning in the Middle East. So I think fans will be delighted to hear any noise in the stadium, and at a pretty nice time slot as well, finally. But Dan, before we let you go, this match tonight, who could be the match winner for Japan? Because in a misfiring team, an individual talent, a moment of magic might be the difference. And I would have said the wonder boy Kubo, but he's injured for this game. So, no slaloming solo run and goal to match. I don't even know if he would have started if he had been available. But who is the match winner tonight for Japan to save Moriyasu's job? Or is it all going to come crumbling down?
I think that the easy pick for a match winner is Furuhashi. I think that if Moriyasu knows what's good for him, Kyogo will be in the starting lineup. And I know maybe Celtic fans don't want to hear this because they want him to they want him to come back healthy. We want him to go back healthy. But I think that he needs to have the game of his life tonight. I think that if he does that, if he can score in such a crucial game, I think that goes a long way towards cementing his place in the national team, which is something that he's talked about. He's very clear that now he thinks that playing in a World Cup is something that he can achieve. But if he wants to do that, first he's got to score in games like tonight.
I want to see Rogic versus Kyogo. So please, put him in the game. Dan Orlowitz, always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Dan Orlowitz from the Japan Times. Big thank you to him. We're going to take a very short break. On the other side, former Socceroos goalkeeper Clint Bolton is going to join us.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Buying your electricity from the big energy companies is now the most expensive way to power your home. In fact, the average electricity bill in Australia has more than doubled in the last 15 years, but not for the ones who went solar. Unlike your electricity bill, the price of solar has actually come down, and there's also government rebates available. So what are you waiting for? Join the 2 million households already saving hundreds of dollars every year. See how much your roof could be making you at solarpowerco.com.au. Go solar and get $500 cash back with the Solar Power Co, Australia's.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
We're back here on Twilight Football on FNR Football Nation Radio. Josh Parrish and Nick Debano, your hosts. And with us now, former Socceroos goalkeeper Clint Bolton. Clint, welcome to the show.
I love how you threw the nickname in there. Thanks guys.
It's almost your name at this point. Do people still call you Bootsa when they meet you for the first time? It seems like everybody knows it.
Yeah, pretty much. And I find it quite amusing considering probably bugger all people actually know the origins of it and would probably be a little bit surprised at what it actually means.
Are they appropriate for the airwaves, or should
probably
we
not.
leave a mystery? Okay, we'll preserve the mystery. Socceroos playing against Japan tonight, biggest game for the national team in a couple of years. Clint, first of all, are you excited? Because I don't think, as we were talking about off air, we've seen quite enough advertising for this particular fixture.
I'm excited, absolutely. It's a great fixture to have at this point in time, considering where both teams are at. You know, Socceroos on a great run, 12 wins in a row, unprecedented, fantastic form, look good, look solid defensively, which is important, plenty of threats in attack. And on the flip side, just as much interest in Japan and where they're at, because it's been a good few years where they've been on this, in this real hump. And you wonder if they can find a way out of it in the short term to actually get to the next World Cup. there's a lot of big question marks around Japan. So it's in a lot of ways, it's just a shame, because normally when you get to watch Japan, you watch a really fluent, technical, quality team that usually gets results in Asia. So strange times for Japan. So it'd be a really interesting one.
In terms of tonight's game, Clint, I mean, Australia's won obviously that on that winning streak, but they, with no disrespect to the teams they've played, they haven't played anyone at the same ilk of Japan. I guess, is how much of a litmus test do you see this for Graham Arnold on the side tonight?
It's a good test because of not only the opposition, but they're actually in a more traditional environment in qualifying tonight, with being in Japan's backyard. So that's a bit different to what they've done in the recent matches, being in Qatar and such. So it's a more traditional home match for Japan. While there won't be a full packed stadium, and we're all the poorer for it, because Saitama is a quality stadium with it packed 60,000, I think, around that mark. It's just an awesome atmosphere. But, a quarter of that anyway will be pretty good. So it's a good test in that regard. And Japan, backs to the wall stuff. Still great quality technical players, a lot of them playing in Europe. Big question marks as to why they can't get their form together and get some decent results. Big pressure on the coach as well. I just feel like this is the sort of test that we'll get to reevaluate where the Socceroos are, regardless of the winning form to this point.
Yeah, I mean, the quality and calibre of opposition is not something Graham Arnold can control. He's beaten all the teams in front of him, so you can't really criticise the results whatsoever. One of the interesting features about this iteration of the national team is two of our best players are foreign-born, two UK boys, and a Scottish man by the name of Martin Boyle bagging the goals. So, I mean, for once, Australia's using Ancestry.com to our advantage instead of getting players pinched from us, Clint.
Yeah, he's Arnie's certainly done his research since being in charge. A couple of years ago, we don't even know quite a few of these players: Boyle, Sutar, Karacic, Hrustic, just to name a few. But I don't know how do you read that? I guess the more traditional route for Australian Socceroo players through our national league and being recognised here in Australia is become more difficult to find that quality. Do we look at it in that way? So we've had to reach out and find these players that have gone under the radar, players that we don't know, that have gone on a different road overseas. You can look at it in a multiple of different ways. So regardless of how they've gotten there, and Arnie's gotten them to this point, it's still such a great run, and they're in a great position. They're just the two ends of the game, which I reflect on. The attacking end, they're a constant threat, which is fantastic. To any opposition that they face now, I feel like they're going to find moments in matches where they can actually score a lot of goals, or score some goals to actually win the match. But importantly, defensively, and I think about the last 15 or so years, defensively, we've really started to struggle a lot in our national teams, particularly at our junior level, but also in the Socceroos. I think back to 2006, the golden generation. We always think about the quality in attack, and it's phenomenal, but we also had serious quality in defence as well. The goalkeepers and the defending department was always rock solid, and we'd always find ways to stay in matches regardless of how well we were doing at the attacking end. And that's been lost in the last 15 years, but all of a sudden, we're getting a run of clean sheets. They've only conceded, I think, one goal to this point, in recent times anyway. So my mind's, I was a keeper, so I'm always conditioned to go to the defensive end, which people's just seeing is pretty boring. But I think it's the cornerstone to what happens in the long term with this Socceroos team. Great, they're scoring goals, but I'm still looking at that defensive end and thinking, can they keep this run going? Can they make me believe that come the bigger games like tonight and like a World Cup next year, that they can get the job done defensively?
You mentioned defence. Harry Sutar, he's on the radar Premier League clubs right now. How high of a ceiling do you think he has from what you've seen? Can he cut it at the highest level?
Well, firstly, he's probably taken the less traditional route for a defender to get into the team. It seems like it's as much as attacking threat at set pieces that's got him into the lineup. So there's still, for me, serious question marks around his ability to defend against quality opposition. He hasn't really faced a lot of that just yet in the Socceroos setup. So there's still question marks for me. I look at his partner, Trent Sainsbury, and I've always been one that's tempered my thinking about Trent. I'm probably in the minority in the way I view Trent. I think he's a superb player on the ball, great attacking threat. But defensively, for me, he gets caught out a lot, gets caught out of position a lot, and is very casual in recovering his position. And I look back at a lot of goals conceded beyond the last 2 years at World Cups and such, and I can sort of point the finger at Trent and think he could have done better. So I'm still yet to be convinced by Trent at the top level. So big question marks. But Harry's, he's fitted in beautifully, hasn't he? And regardless of where and how football changes along the way, one thing is constant, that's set pieces. So if he's in the team, he's always going to be a threat at set pieces.
One thing that's actually annoyed me recently watching the team is that they've overcomplicated the set piece routines. When you've got a guy who's like 6'7" at the back stick, and just float the ball up to him. He's going to win the first header.
Yeah, good point. But he's spot on. He's not. The thing is, you can overcomplicate these things with a guy like that in the team. But don't forget, we're coming up against really quality opposition.
Sure.
And regardless of the height differential, you've got wily players, wily defenders that can out-muscle him and put him off. So I don't mind the variation. That, to me, means they're putting work into set pieces. And I've seen and been a part of a lot of teams along the journey that forget about the set pieces. It's always the day before the game where we're going to do a couple of set pieces and then we expect it to be okay on the day. So I look at that as if Arnie's thinking about it and working on it in the training pack.
Well, Arnie said he wants to freshen things up a bit. If you were looking at making some changes tonight, just to sort of, adjust to playing against Japan, what sort of change would you be looking to make in terms of, the overall starting 11?
I'd stick with Taggart up front. I'm a believer in Adam. He's got huge potential at the top level, so I'd stick with Adam regardless of his goal scoring form. Aaron Moy back into the team. I want to see Aaron back in there, probably at the expense of Tommy Rogic, and possibly Karacic again down that right side. Ryan's been playing well, but Karacic is a good player, and I'd love to see him in there.
That's the interesting conundrum with Moy and Rogic. The debate continues to rage as to whether they can operate in the same team. And it seems as if, luxury player is a bit of a loaded term, but you need somebody with an immense work rate to cover the ground that those two don't defensively. So in a game like this, potentially it's one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I can't add much to that. It's a case of the better quality opposition is going to test you out a lot more defensively in the midfield. So both of them aren't, when you think about those players, you think about them with the ball.
Well, before we let you go, Bootser, I want to ask you about goalkeeping. And Matty Ryan, he's been a stalwart for the national team despite shifts and changes at club level in terms of whether he's playing and his injury status and so forth. I've seen some Socceroos fans arguing that the in-form Australian goalkeeper at the moment, ironically playing his club football in Japan and setting clean sheets records, is actually retired from national team duty because he wasn't being selected. Mitch Langerak. Where do you stand on that? Is Matt Ryan just too important a leader in that team, and is he undroppable? Or should Graham Arnold have considered Mitch Langerak for the number one spot earlier before he made that choice?
Yeah, Mitch should have gotten a lot more game time, no doubt about it. I think Mitch is technically a better keeper. And I think Matt Ryan's ability, probably with his feet, has probably got him over the line more often than not. But Mitch, his goal-stopping ability, second to none. And we're seeing that now in Japan. So he's a massive loss. I reflect on him retiring and publicly, he said he didn't say it as much, but you assume it's because of game time. But I wonder just if it's a situation or a result of the environment we now live in. And, because of the COVID situation, he just found it, or maybe it's compounding issues, not getting enough game time, current COVID situation, being in Japan, young family, just really settled and doesn't want to travel. So I just wonder if that was the reason he walked away. Regardless, a top-line keeper has walked away from our national team, and we can only be the poorer for it.
Is international retirement a bit of a relief in some ways for a player when they can just narrow their focus on the club football and not think about it anymore?
Absolutely. And think of Mitch's situation. He finds himself on the bench most of the time. And as a keeper, the chances of you coming on in a game is bugger all. So, you know what I mean? So if Matt Ryan seems to be the incumbent and you get the feeling that that's not going to change, then you weigh these things up. And he wouldn't be the first to retire from international football. And I can totally get why, particularly now over the last couple of years, what's going on. But yeah, I think that's why you, as a manager, as a coach of that national team, you have to manage these situations a lot better. So maybe that's just one little cross against Arnie along the way. He's got many ticks, but there's it's just a couple of little crosses there, and maybe that's one of them.
You have to wonder if that will continue. I mean, we're seeing how so many A-League players, they can't go at the moment. Matt Leckie, McLaren, that you have to wonder if maybe that would accentuate beyond just goalkeepers. Like players just right now making decisions, it's just not right because of the quarantine situation.
Yeah, spot on. It's a tough situation for players to be in. Travel is just a lot tougher. You're quarantining, so that's extra days away from family. A lot of these guys have young families, newborns, young kids. Mate, I don't have kids of my own, but I babysit a couple little boys, and just being away from them for a week, I'm just like, I'm gutted. And they're not even my kids, so I can only imagine if they were my kids. So all these things would have to weigh on the modern player in these modern situations, because, mate, the world is clearly a lot different place than when I used to play. And I can't imagine putting myself in this situation and having to make decisions like this. It'd be that tough.
All right, final one before we let you go. Match prediction for tonight. We'll give our predictions as well. Do you want us to go first? All right.
Yeah, you go first.
I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I think Japan away is a tough fixture for anybody, but a draw could be enough to see Moriyasu get the sack anyway. So, I think a draw is honestly a good result in my books, regardless of Japan's form. Away from home, they're a tough team to play against. Nick?
Yeah, I have to...
He's frozen up on us.
There
we go.
Go down to this one. Sorry. Yeah, 1-1 as well, Josh. I'll just keep it short. Same sort of thing. I just don't think it's going to be an easy beat at all.
All right, we've sat on the fence. Go on,
what do they say about great minds? That's three of us, because that's the result I had in mind. It's got draw written all over it, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Well, sometimes these big games underwhelm. Hopefully it's not the case. Hopefully we're wrong and we get an absolute barn burner tonight. But Clint, regardless, it's been a pleasure speaking to you and getting your thoughts ahead of a big fixture. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
We'll take a short break. On the other side, we're going to discuss the potential referees strike that just broke before we started the show. The Referees Union is not making their officials available for the FFA Cup tie. So we're going to talk about that on the other side of this break.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Buying your electricity from the big energy companies is now the most expensive way to power your home. In fact, the average electricity bill in Australia has more than doubled in the last 15 years, but not for the ones who went solar. Unlike your electricity bill, the price of solar has actually come down, and there's also government rebates available. So what are you waiting for? Join the 2 million households already saving hundreds of dollars every year. See how much your roof could be making you at solarpowerco.com.au. Go solar and get $500 cash back with the Solar Power Co, Australia's most trusted solar brand. solarpowerco.com.au.
Final time this evening on Twilight Football, FNR Football Nation Radio. If you missed any of our chats with Dan Orlowitz or Clint Bolton, they will be available as podcasts straight after the show, but you better get in quick because that stuff doesn't have a long shelf life, unfortunately, unless you want to rewind time and discuss how wrong we were in our Twitter mentions. Josh Parrish and Nick Debano with you. We've got a breaking bit of news that we want to discuss, but before that, Nick, I'm going to get you to put your money where your mouth is, and we'll go through position by position and pick our starting 11s. Starting in goal, surely. There is only one answer.
Matt Ryan, yeah.
Easy one. Left back.
I'd be going with Aziz, sticking with Aziz. I don't think Callum Elder, it's only really Callum Elder's the only other real choice. But yeah, Aziz Beige for me, 100%.
Centre backs, is it the same tried and not trusted by Clint Bolton combination of Trent Sainsbury and Harry Souttar?
I was about to say, if you're Clint Bolton, he'd probably say Bailey Wright or Ryan McGowan, but I'm going Sainsbury and Souttar. If Milos Degenek was there, maybe Joe Degenek and Souttar, because I really rate Milos Degenek, but I think that's the undisputed duo at the back right now.
I mean, Bailey Wright is your defender's defender, though. I reckon Butzer would probably pick him. I didn't press him on it, but I reckon he likes Bailey Wright. We'll have to ask him next time.
Well, I mean, plays for League One, plays for Sunderland. He is your defender's defender.
Right back. This is an interesting one.
Oh, mate, you know my answer. Fran Karasic.
Hey, we're on the same page again, Nick. God, we've got to stop sharing so many football opinions.
Serie B. Yeah, no, 100%. I think Frank Karasic. I think I just cut out for a second there, Josh, but definitely Karasic at right back. Did you ask about midfield yet?
No. Just give me your Karasic rationale because you cut out there.
Well, for those 10 minutes, how good was he? Like, it just if you hadn't seen him play before that 10 minutes kind of summed it up. He offers a lot more going forward. His crossing is brilliant. Like the cross he put into Mitch Duke twice, he scored, and then the one he missed as well. And but even just in terms of his form before that, like you remember the last, I think it was the June qualifiers when he got back into the team, he scored. He was really good during that. I think he's Australia's best right back. No disrespect to what Ryan Grant's done, but Frank Karasic is at the moment a much better player, and I think he should play tonight.
Central midfield. Let's pick the two holders first, because we know we're playing 4-2-3-1. That ain't changing.
Can you remind me as who started last game? So I've just had a blank.
Irvine and Hrustic.
So Hrustic starts for me. I'd be dropping Jackson Irvine, Josh. I'd be pushing Hrustic higher up. I know if Joey Lynch is listening to this, he'd love this, but I think it's time to unleash Denny Jonro. Match him power for power. Go Jonro sitting at the base, and then push, Tom Rogic and Aiden Hrustic further up, playing as attacking mid. Take it to him. Get Denny Jonro in there. I think that what he's done so far at Toulouse, he's been brilliant, and I think he fits that mold perfectly to sit at the base and just let him create. Interesting.
I am not going to agree with you there. I think we should probably go with the combination that started the last game. I think Rogic, Hrustic, Irvine, it ain't perfect, but it's certainly better than whenever we've made changes to that three. I have to say I disagree with Clint Bolton, what he said before about Moy. I just don't think Moy's looked up to it. I think people are hanging on to Moyes' like past achievements and reputation and not looking at his current performances, which haven't been that great. I'm not saying he's past it. He's just had period out of the game, a rough period in his personal life, of course. And I just don't think he's quite ready to be a starter for the national team once again. And then the Rogic-Moy conundrum, we've never found a midfielder who can kind of pick up their baggage, essentially. And, I mean, maybe, as T. Pato is suggesting in the Twitch stream, go for Kenny Dougal alongside a Moy-Rogic combo, because he does get through a lot of work. That guy covers every blade of grass on the field.
Yeah, he's a real enforcer, Kenny Dougal.
He is, but I just feel like it's too big a risk in this kind of fixture. So I'm going same. I'm going Irvine, Hrustic, Rogic. I
think the one thing I would take into account, Josh, is I think he's going to rotate, because he did say yesterday he has got some tired bodies and he wants some fresh legs. So I would be surprised if there's one midfield change. Maybe not like wholesale. And he keeps honing on the fact that he reckons Aaron Moy can still be up to it based off adrenaline alone, not necessarily match fitness. Second he steps, the words, not word for word, but indirect, were essentially the second he steps on the blade of grass, he'll be fine. It would all just come back to him. So I don't know. I don't think Moy and Rogic will work together, but I think we'll both see them play tonight. Don't know if they'll be on at the same time, though.
Yeah, it could be Jimmy Jego coming in as well, because he did come off the bench in the last match. And he is another water carrier type, number 6, who will do the simple things and close down players and cover ground and do the boring little jobs in the midfield defensively. Yeah, that's the head scratcher for me in that area of the team. I'm not sure if there's rotations. Will it just be a straight swap, Moy Rogic, and put Hrustic in the number 10 spot? That makes sense to me. To swap Moy and Rogic, considering those two players aren't famed for their endurance and short turnarounds and so forth. And I think Celtic fans, talking about, Kyogo starting, I think they'll be tearing their hair out if Rogic plays significant minutes twice in a week.
Yeah, he played as well. Did he play 90 from memory against Oman? Or
I think he came off. He came off on the hour mark, 63 minutes. So
okay, so I mean, he still hasn't played like full 90. It might be a bit of a tactical decision from Arnie as well, thinking ahead in terms of playing against Japan. So maybe he will start. We'll just curious to see what happens.
Yeah, it's that's the head scratcher, because I feel like that's the first choice selection that played against Oman. So if there's going to be rotations, that means you're not playing your first choice against Japan, which is a bit strange to me. Maybe it isn't Graham Arnold's first choice in his mind, but it looked like the number one picks in mind. Anyway, going to the forward line, I would argue that Martin Boyle on his hot streak is undroppable and has to start.
Yeah, Martin Boyle starts. Martin Boyle and Owen Mobile out wide, and I think you stick with Adam Taggart. I think as much as Mitch Duke is scoring, Adam Taggart's work off the ball and in terms of his facilitation work is unmatched. I know that there's this love among a section of soccer Twitter that suggests that Mitch Duke, because he scores and because he's a hard worker, that he should be starting. But I think that Taggart's still done a pretty good job. I think he's a bit underappreciated for what he does. And in this sort of game, Josh, I'm saying it, we've got to see Daniel Arzani. If the game is on the line and we've got to get a goal, I want to see half an hour of Daniel Arzani going at Yuto Nagatomo. I don't think Nagatomo's got it in him anymore to go up against that, especially late in the game. 35-year-old Nagatomo's gone through a lot of running in his life. I don't think you'll want to be seeing Daniel Arzani in the last half hour.
I like it, and I think Super Sub Arzani is always something I can get behind.
Yeah.
If Anwar Mobile hadn't played quite so well in the game against Oman, I would be calling for Economides to start ahead of him. But he did play very well. And he was looking confident. His touch was good. You can always tell Mobile is on a good run when his first touch just glues to his foot. Because when his confidence starts to dip or things don't go right for him in a game, the ball ends up traveling further and further from his foot on the first touch. And you can kind of judge where he is at performance-wise just by that one aspect, I think. And he was looking really confident against Oman. So I would stick with Mobile, especially with his ability to hurt teams in transition. And up front, Adam Taggart, I agree. I mean, and Boots has said it, he's just got such potential as an all-around centre forward who can do all of the pressing, defensive things. He can play with his back to goal, bring others into play, make well-timed runs off the shoulder. And his role in creating that counter-attack where I don't think Australia actually scored, but it was a beautiful counter-attack where he rolled one defender off his back and set us away in the Oman game. That shows his multifaceted, skill set. Nick, before we go, this bit of news that took us by surprise on the eve of the episode was that the Professional Football Referees Association, that is the Referees Union, has advised Football Australia that PFRA members will not be available to officiate FFA Cup matches and A-League trial games. The PFRA, does not take this decision lightly and comes on the back of more than 3 months of discussion and efforts to resolve several topics. The topics are that the A-League's leadership and coaching department did not have their contracts renewed as the league separated from Football Australia in July 2021. So that means they've had, in their words, no direction, no coaching instruction, and no fitness coaching, despite being just weeks out from the start of a new season. Then the A-League panels, or A-League's panels, I should say, were announced. That means the referees that are available for selection. They're sort of the selection pool, I suppose. And they were announced members were unfairly removed from their position without any due process or warning. There was no performance management or even an indication that any members may have been in danger of losing their position. And then finally, the A-League's referees are without a contract for the coming season, which is the bombshell to drop on number 3. And I suspect this is going to be resolved quick smart, because you can't have a season without referees, even if not all of them are members of the union.
No, because how many referees wouldn't be in the union, Josh? That's what we've got to be asking now. Like, if they don't resolve this, is Adam Babsky going to be doing double duty? Like, if he's not in the union or whatever else. Like, that's, by the way, I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. I'm just saying, like, are we going to get FV, accredited NPL referees who we haven't seen at A-League level just get thrusted into it? But I think it will. There's still, 4 or 5 weeks till the season starts. The FFA Cup games in at least this part of the seaboard aren't going to be on till November. So hopefully, at least with the upcoming FFA Cup games that are in Queensland, South Australia, they organise that quick smart and get that sorted, because you don't want to have 2 games without referees. So it'll be intriguing to see how they sort this one out, but they've got time. It's just something you'd think that you'd have out by now. Like, it's October, you'd think that you'd have the contract signed by now. It's so late. The season's been done for 4 months, for God's sake.
Look, I can't imagine a group of union members more scrupulous and more disapproving of a scab in their midst than the referees. So I can't imagine it would go down too well if there is a couple of refs who decide to slink across the picket line and pick up games anyway. Maybe they'll have to do the old trick of having a dad ref the first half and then the dad from the other team ref the second. It's a volunteer linesman with a bib just waving it. You call the other teams offsides because you're never going to call your own. It's a principle of grassroots football, which is a sad indictment that we're ever put in that position in grassroots football. But that's an entirely separate issue that we should probably do a whole show about.
They were character building games as a player, Josh. You had to play against the dad. The referee was a dad for the other team. It's literally playing against 12, and it was no calls, offsides, the lot. And usually as well, if the linesman couldn't keep up with the back 4, that in itself was its own problem, because usually they just get caught napping.
It's the worst, always the worst, when you were substituted with the rolling subs, and then you go to run to the bench and they say, no, you got to switch with your teammate who's on lino duty. Just the absolute worst, when you just want to go to the bench for a drink and you have to put a bib on and get the flag and keep running when you think you've earned a rest. But look, we're taking this lightly, but it is a pretty serious situation. I can only imagine that this is a negotiating tactic and it'll all be sorted shortly. If not, we are in for basically the A-League's version of the Purge, which could be interesting.
No, literally, it's going to be interesting viewing. very, very interesting viewing.
All right, Nick, I'll let you go because I'll be seeing you again in a couple of hours. We've got our watch-along planned for the Japan versus Australia game. Ante Jukic, Joey Lynch, and Nick Stoll will be joining us, as well as all of our friends in the FNR stable. So make sure you tune in for that, your second screen experience during the game. Always fun to get lots of live interaction and some live reaction as well to the events unfolding on the pitch. A big game for the Socceroos tonight, so make sure you tune in to it's on channel 10 Bold, I want to say. 10 Bold? Yes, I haven't mixed that up with a secondary channel from another competitive network. Yeah, there we go. Second channel, it's also on 10 Play.
It's not 1HD? Yeah.
No, not 1HD anymore. You don't get the Bundesliga on Saturday mornings, unfortunately. But Nick Devano, it's been a pleasure as usual. I'll chat to you very soon, and we will also be seeing the viewers very, very soon for the watch-along.